Brigham Young University, or BYU, the Mormon university, has a really profound presence and reputation surrounding it. I, for one, should know this because I'm currently enrolled in BYU. Some of the things that you've heard about happening at BYU, as crazy as they sound, have historically happened at BYU. And yes, BYU is as strict as you hear about it being. All the way down to the heavily regulated men's facial hair. Not that it really matters for me, because I can't really grow a pronounced mustache. But there are some things that are harder for me to deal with, including the fact that my shelf broke, and I no longer really subscribe to Mormonism anymore. Don't get me wrong, I still feel like a fish out of water, even when I'm still enrolled in this school. But at least I have some good people to talk to keep me grounded and keep me focused on the goal, that is, graduate as soon as possible, so that I can do whatever I want with my life. My shelf broke in 2022, that is, the summer semester of 2022, and I wasn't really sure if I wanted to continue my education at BYU. It already sounded pretty torturous as it was, but because we'd already paid for tuition, and we had some pretty interesting classes lined up anyway, so I figured I'd just take them, and just to leave home and think a little bit more for myself. One of the classes I was taking was a philosophy class taught by Chad Conrad, I believe. His class would be the first of its kind for me, the first philosophy class that I will have ever taken in all of my curricular life. And it was pretty interesting. He seemed really open-minded to different ideas, and we were talking about some of the things that I learned about, including things that were outside of the church material, which for me was unheard of, and I was really open-minded to all of it. We were talking about things like the God is dead narrative, Taoism, and we even talked a little bit about something that I brought up in class, which was a student conference or something. It was some kind of presentation that was given in the 60s by a man named Rod Serling, the creator of the Twilight Zone series in the 1960s. Rod Serling brought up this idea to an audience of students. He believes in God, but he believes in man more, because if anyone is going to do it, it's man, and if man's not going to do it, then no one else shall. God's probably not going to intervene in something like that. That's not to say that God doesn't have the power to do so, but if someone's going to do something, and if someone's going to make an influence in this plane of existence, it's probably more likely than not going to be man. Apart from the very open discussions in class, we were also asked to do a final project. What that was would be whatever we would want to do that would help explain our personal philosophy. I wasn't really sure what I was going to share because I wasn't really feeling it in the church anymore, and I wasn't 100% sure if I wanted to come out about my, and this is what it's called for people who are unfamiliar with the Mormon community, a faith crisis. I didn't want to lie on my final project because it was supposed to be on my personal philosophy and what I believed in. But I was worried that I would potentially be kicked out of the university because I came out as non-believing. But I eventually folded because I just could not come to the thought of lying to myself and to my professor, because if I wasn't honest with myself, if I wasn't honest with what I believed in and thought about to other people, then what's that going to say about me in the future? And then came the other problem. What medium was I going to use to express myself? What was I going to use that I was passionate about to share this story of mine? And then I got a really stupid idea. What if I made a video using Kerbal Space Program to share my personal philosophy? Well, That's exactly what I did. I am going to share the content that I put in this video. I am definitely not going to share this video because there's a lot of like DMCA stuff in there probably. But I will share what I've said, at least some of what I've said. There's some things that have changed over the past couple of years. I did make this video about 4 years ago or something, this final project about 4 years ago. So there are some things that have updated themselves. Such as, I was fully confident that I was going to get into my degree in mechanical engineering, which, that didn't work. Calculus was my Achilles heel. So I eventually ended up switching my major to geography. Honestly, best switch ever. I'm more involved in the aviation community than I ever thought I would be. Like, for example, I got my FAA license to fly drones commercially, which, that's super cool. I'm really excited to see what avenues that opens up for me. But that's a whole nother thing. Let's get back to the topic at hand. Coming out as non-believing in my video. I didn't quite use the words non-believing, but I kind of hinted at it. I explained how my shelf broke during COVID. 2020. That's when the whole shutdown thing happened. No physical church meetings whatsoever. We didn't have any sacrament meeting, we didn't have any Sunday school. We didn't even have Zoom meetings until like a month or 2 months after the whole shutdown happened. We didn't really have a system established until a little bit into the early summer. And that gave me time to think to myself about the things that I believed in. And I just took the time to myself that I would have spent in church to think, is this authentically what I believe in because I think it's true? Or is this something that I, with air quotes, believe in because I was just exposed to that? Because I grew up in that culture that says, this is, without a doubt, 100% true. It's not just faith, it's true. I started to think otherwise. I didn't think that was the case anymore. And in the video I showed this little Kerbal walking around, and all of a sudden he finds this building. He walks inside and he finds this winding hallway that he easily gets lost in. Once he goes in, there's no going back. He tries to turn around and look back, and the entrance is nowhere to be found. There's no going out once you enter Pandora's box. In the hallways, he eventually finds a projector, which he plays. That's where I showed my own deconstruction of the universe, my own mental deconstruction of the universe that I lived in. Now, I based this approach to reality on French philosopher Descartes, where he took all of his base understanding of how life worked and threw it out the window to start from scratch. Now, I mentioned that I wouldn't be fully starting from scratch necessarily because there were some things that I didn't want to abandon. Ideas like common sense. I then brought up another set of ideas from a movie that we watched for the class called Inherit the Wind. For those unfamiliar, this was a movie that was made based on the monkey trials of the 1920s. Now, the monkey trials goes over the idea of evolution versus the idea of the biblical God that created heaven and earth in 7 days. The lawyer arguing on behalf of and in defense of evolution argued that God very well could have created the earth in 7 days, but was each day in the span of 24 hours? Or could he make each day last 25 hours? Could he make each day last 100 years? 5,000 years? 100,000 years? 1,000,000 years? He could very well change the scale and the passage of time as we know it. And we would be none the wiser because his power is beyond our physical influence. And it's very telling that he's using these kinds of arguments to defend evolution. Because as he does it, he has a Bible in his back pocket. A man who was defending evolution. And defending the idea that we have an ancestry rooting back to ancient primates. Believes, and actively believes at that, in the Christian God. I used that idea specifically to conclude my own philosophy in the video. I stated that I would forge my own path. I wasn't sure how spiritual it was going to be, or how grounded it was going to be from spirituality, but I knew that I would base it off of something eventually. I think over time, I've gained my own sense of spirituality, and I was thinking about finding God in a way again. That is, pretty recently. Not the Mormon God, but some God that's out there. All with this base understanding of metaphysics. That is, the idea that I can't physically prove that someone is there, but at least the idea is there. We'll talk more about metaphysics another day, because that in and of itself is pretty interesting. Overall, I was pretty open about sharing my own ideologies in this final project. And wouldn't you know, this long shot of an idea, one that I used Kerbal Space Program for as a medium to share my story, not only passed, but got extra points with a 22.5 out of 20. No doubt helping me pass my course, as it carried an extremely hefty weight for my grade. And I was just so speechless that I can't even tell you. I was stunned. I basically just came out as non-believing to my Mormon professor, yet he passed me. The organization of the Mormon Church is not a good organization, and is pretty harmful in a lot of respects. But they have a damn good amount of people that really care about you. Now, by no means am I referring to everyone in the church. There's definitely some bad actors. But Chad Conrad passes the vibe check. He is invited to the cookout any day. And I really wish more people in the church were as open-minded as he was to my situation. There's definitely a lot more that I'll want to say at some point about my own spirituality and my own experience specifically with the Mormon Church. But I don't feel like it's to the point where I could say some of those things yet. But in time, I will feel comfortable to share those things, because I think it is important for people to hear and understand what some people go through when they live the Mormon lifestyle. It's not going to be easy to talk about, but it's important to understand where I came from and where a lot of other people come from as well. Things that I have experienced or haven't experienced that I've heard about. Mark my words, you will hear all of that. And on spirituality in general, you'll also be hearing a little bit about that too. Things that I've learned in my philosophy classes, things that I've loosely talked about with my partner, things that they've learned and they're putting into practice, and also things that I might be putting into practice myself. nothing's really set in stone for me. But I'll definitely keep you updated for any, for lack of a better term, I don't know, spiritual R&D or something. But I think enough has been said, and I'll leave it right here for now. So, I hope you all found this informative. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again very soon.